Okay. So Don, what do you know about Zyxel Nebula, etc. on here? What is Ian kind of
Very
introduced you?
little. I've looked at the documentation on the website. Generally perused. I've created myself a Nebula account, but obviously there's no devices attached, so I can't see anything there. So I'm aware, but not of any detail.
Okay. So you've obviously created an account. You've obviously gone in. So you've obviously come through here, and I'm going to submit, and I'm going to go into Nebula. I am an administrator for multiple organisations, and within those organisations there might be different sites, etc. So again, in here we've got different organisations. We were at the Vet Show this year, so there's a site, there's an organisation there. There's a number of different colleagues' homes, and then we've got some Zyxel Europe, and all of this is live data. Okay, so I'm gonna click into Zyxel Europe. This is my organisation. This is what I look after. Okay, and in here I can see the whole view, so I can see all of my organisations, so all of my sites, etc. See the status, see the licensing, see the devices, whether there's something wrong or not, as the case might be, and I can also do that for my site or my organisation as well. So as a school, for instance, you would have one organisation, potentially one site, maybe more than one site, and in here, and you can see the overview of your school and what's happening. You can see whether the health of these sites, whether boxes are up or down, etc., whether they're working or not working, and then we can kind of click through and go into these sites. Okay, so is it just a one site that you've got on, or is it multiple sites?
The scope of the project we're initially looking at is one site. However, we are a multi-academy trust. There will be eventually multiple sites in the northeast area.
Yeah, so absolutely you can view and you can set those up, and you can have visibility of all of those sites from the Nebula platform, right? So it's expandable up there. So of course, if you're just a single organization with a single site, pretty much this is what you're going to see, okay? But it does allow you to grow or have access to different sites, and also give different people different administration rights. So again, if they if you've got a support staff, etc., you don't want them changing anything, but you want them to be able to view, you can certainly allow them to have read access, but not write access into their into the Nebula system. Okay, and again, if you do have multiple schools around within the academy, then again you can give them only access to their school. You can have visibility of all schools, etc. along those lines. So again, we can play with the different rights and different views that people can have and the different access. Within Nebula, there's really three main components. There's the APs, so the access points, the Nebula switches, and also the Nebula gateways, so the routers, etc. in here. And it is completely pick and mix. You don't have to have all three boxes for it to work. For instance, in the UK, I've just got APs. In Germany, I've got APs and switches. And then I think my Italian, no, they're in a different view. We'll have the whole lot if I flip over to my Italians. No. Okay. Finland certainly have it all in their site. Okay. So again, we have, you can pick and mix. You can have an access point and a gateway, or an access point only, or switches only, or gateways only. It's completely flexible for you and for your needs. Okay. So let's go back and let's drill through some of this information that we can see. I'm going to pick the UK. This is a live site. This is all live data, all live information in here. The first thing is obviously this is the dashboard. We can then go into the site-wide and look at the summary report. This is what's happening. We had some outage earlier today, so we might be able to see some of that appear a bit later on. We can see the access points. Access point 4, which is offline, is sitting on my desk. So you know, that's not needed in our office. So again, it would normally be here, but I've removed it at the moment. And you can see the number of clients within the last day, the number of clients that have been on each of those access points and the usage of those access points. Okay. We can see map and floor plan. So again, if you want to place a floor plan in, here's a floor plan. Here's the APs on the floor plan. We can move into satellite view. You can zoom in and out again. You could do all kinds of different views and move the APs around, etc., to the right locations on there. Okay, and if you have more than more Nebula devices, it will build up a topology for you. Ultimately, I've just got the Nebula APs, so it just knows that these Nebula APs are connected to some other devices in my network. Okay. So let's have a quick look at the access points. Now, any of these you can drill through. Okay, any of these, so you can drill all the way through. I'm going to drill through from the summary report, for instance. Anything that I can click into AP2, for instance, drill through that and find the information. Okay, see when it was online, when it was offline, etc. You can see this kind of probably dead period here where it was offline or. Okay, and you can change that around. You can go from the configuration here. I might want to look at clients. So who's online? What have these clients been doing? Okay, so again, I can look at my iPhone or my laptop. Let's have a look at my laptop. So in here, here's my laptop connected to AP03, so I could click into that, find out what's going on. What channel it is, what band it is, what signal strength, what transmit and receive rates, what's my IP address here. And again, I can click any of these informations that I want to see, association time. So I can click that. Let's see what association time was. 9:56 this morning, it associated with it. That's because we had the outage just before 10. So again...
Sorry to interrupt you. Just a moment. Can you give us some idea of the capacity of these APs? You know, what numbers of users can be attached, and is it possible to get any information about what they're actually looking at? And can we ban things like? I know you have a very particular view about YouTube in your house.
Yes.
Which I think would be interesting to hear in a schools environment.
So in here we have the Nebula devices themselves. Okay, so if we click into Nebula here, it depends, and why I haven't just straight answered that question on capacity is depending on which AP we're actually using will depend on which model you're going to choose and how many clients can attach to those APs. Okay, so let's go in here. Okay, so in here we have our managed APs. These are the Nebula APs. So I've got one of these, the NAP 102s, and two of these currently working, which are the NAP 303s. And realistically, the 303s have our smart antenna technology in it. So these can actually take up to 200 clients per AP, okay, and deal with those, because actually we create an antenna profile per device that's attached to it. It does depend upon what type of client is attaching and how much potentially airtime those clients are having. So again, if I go back to my Nebula solution in here, if I see anything that's very low speed, like here, this one here, for instance, on the low speed, they're going to take up more airtime Okay, now that could be they are far away from the AP. Their signal strength isn't that great. Okay, so again, the further you move away from an AP, the weaker the signal gets, the more time it takes me to communicate with that device, that client. So again, those are considerations in there that you've got to have. But if you've only got some older G clients, they take up more airtime on an AP, so it doesn't really matter which AP you have. It's about what applications, how much data, how much airtime you need. But the smart antenna in here will give you the best and strongest signal for each of those different clients in there. That's the 303.
Sorry, Alex, can I just ask a question? You talked about airtime. Is there any kind of airtime fairness algorithm?
Yeah, these all have airtime fairness in them,
Yes.
to be honest. And it's about trying to make the best use of that airtime available. But if you've still got clients that are very slow, they still take longer to transmit that their data.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is about, airtime fairness really works really well when you're all very close to each other. But when a device is further away and it still needs to transmit that data, it still needs to take up that time.
So is that enough capacity for you, Don? Is that going to meet your? I assume that you'll need several hundred, or you need a few of these dotted around the school. And
yeah, I would imagine given the structure of the school that we're looking at initially, I don't think we'd ever get 200 people on one AP. I think invariably we've been putting multiple APs in multiple locations, and I mean, when a client sees to access points, is there any kind of band steering or LP steering mechanism in there?
Yeah, absolutely there is. So we actually, within our configuration in here, we do band steering. So you'll see that most of us are on 5 gigahertz. Okay, so we force our users onto 5 gigahertz rather than the 2.4. Okay, where possible, because it's less congested. We can then use the bigger bandwidths, etc. within AC. Okay, just go into the configuration of the radios in here. Okay, and we can also play around with the channel widths in here and the signal strengths as well. Okay, but certainly we can force them over.
So what about load balancing between APs within the same mesh?
We can load balance in here. We have something called by client numbers. So again, we can take the number on an AP. So if we're saying that AP is only going to be dealing with 20 clients, that's the maximum numbers. Or else we do have this enable smart classroom mode, which gets clients quickly connected. And basically, what's the difference? You've got a class of 30, let's say. I don't know how many you've got in it, but that's generally what most classrooms are, or 30 devices connecting. I want to load those across 2 APs because they can see one in that one classroom and the one next door. So I've set my maximum clients to be 20. And if I go in here and set that to be 20 in there, what would actually happen is the AP would still allow other clients to join and then slowly over time reduce that back down to 20 clients. But while that time is happening, those clients, all of those clients on the AP may not be getting the best, throughput, etc., because we've optimized it for 20. Smart Classroom basically says, I'm going to take 20 clients and that's it. I reject anybody else and stop them connecting to me. And if I am overloaded, let's say someone does join me, I just knock them straight off again. And so actually it's much, much quicker at loading clients across multiple APs. Okay, and certainly we developed this for our education relationships because actually they, you know, when you boot up, and hopefully in most schools or whatever else, it depends whether it's laptops or iPads or whatever else, they turn on the devices at a very similar time. They all connect to the AP at a very similar time. And we need to be quite aggressive in that loading, okay? Which is why we have these two options there. Okay?
Okay.
So absolutely, we can do some loading, we can do some load balancing in there, making sure that clients can't connect to the right, or they do connect to the right AP, etc. That is best for them. We hold multiple SSIDs in here, okay, so you can have multiple SSIDs, up to 8 SSIDs. We never recommend as Zyxel as anything more than 4 SSIDs, because once you go over that, you're taking up airtime, precious airtime in the management frames, and you're broadcasting out. So every SSID needs to beacon out, needs to send out its information, etc. And there are lots of management frames that go alongside those. So actually, to minimize that, 4 or less is the appropriate number.
Okay.
But we can go. Band steering, we can go in bands in here. This is the band steering. So at the moment, we've got it turned on. Okay. Concurrent operation 2.4. So we are going to force, or going to sorry, that's the wrong word, force, but we are going to make sure that the 5 gigahertz is the better band for you. So if you have the capability, we will make sure you join the 5 gigahertz rather than the 2.4. Okay. We do have captive portals in here that's not set up right now, where you can set up a guest portal. So if guests come on, or visitors, etc., you can then put them through a portal. They can then sign in through an email account or whatever else. So you can set those up and allow people to join. Ultimately, all of the authentication settings are in here. Let's flip over to that. Take us into authentication. Okay, we have Mac-based authentication, WPA with 802.1x, etc. So we can go off to a radius server.
And that's a local radius server. A local radius server on our side.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So, and then we do have this layer 2 isolation as well. I'm going to flip over to the guest one in here, which is turned on. Layer 2 isolation is important, certainly in your guest environment, where you don't want to be able to see other devices. So actually, flip side is it's like a Mac-based firewall or filter list that actually you are only able to see this one MAC address.
Yeah, we currently use that. I'm always concerned if somebody will switch on a device that's maybe malicious.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you joined the wireless and then you scanned it, you would only ever see yourself and the USG, in this case 210.
Okay, so that's an exception list, like a whitelist.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So they are only able to see those 2 devices. And then again, if you want intra-BBS blocking, etc., but as soon as you turn on layer 2 isolation, it blocks it anyway.
Sorry to interrupt. Don, I know you were you're slightly pressed for time. We don't want to intrude if you need to be somewhere else.
No, I've got another 20 something minutes.
Excellent. That's what we want to hear.
Yep. Okay. So you go through, we can do load balancing, we can go through the radio settings, capture portal authentication, we can schedule SSIDs on and off. So again, if you do want to be able to see that or not see that, so you can add an SSID, you can add a schedule in here, you can then turn them on and off at the weekends. You know, again, on our switches, actually, you can power on and off the ports on a schedule. So again, how many times do you have your APs turned on or your IP phones turned on over weekends that don't necessarily need them, or allowing access?
So back to the SSID,
Sorry, yep.
Allow for Bonjour route and things like that?
Yes, absolutely does. If you don't, in the open, so my guest network is isolated, okay? So that's all locked down, that's isolated. They're only able to speak to the firewall and access the internet. So there's no sharing, okay? if you don't have that turned on, and I don't have that for my Zyxel EU here, okay, my SSID in here, and I go into Authenticate Edit in here, okay, you can see that intra-BBS is off. You can see that layer 2 isolation is off, so we are all able to see each other. Okay.
So this is within the same subnet?
Within the same SSID, yes, and subnet that they are authenticated onto, yes.
Okay, so if I was to place a Bonjour device in that same subnet, wired or wireless, then those clients would work fine. But what about if it wasn't in the same subnet?
If it's not in the same subnet, it's still routable.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. This is still allowing routable traffic, etc. So I'm
Broadcast.
still able to.
Yeah, the Bonjour traffic isn't traditionally routed traffic; it's broadcast.
Yep.
So Bonjour routing.
This doesn't do Bonjour routing. Okay, you'd have to have a router in there to do that routing.
Sorry, I'm not making myself clear. But because Bonjour is broadcast, it won't leave the subnet. You know, you're going to have to effectively do the packet forwarding on behalf of the client on the SSID to get it to reach the Bonjour device on the wired LAN. So, you know, it depends how you want to refer to it, but I know it is Bonjour routing, but it's a service offered by the EAP or the controller of the EAP, typically anyway.
If we had a controller on site, then yes, we'd do it that way, but we don't have a controller on site, so that would need to be routed from a different device. So the AP itself, in this sense, is just doing a layer 2 bridging effect.
Well, it is similar to how we set up our current wireless, but the Bonjour routing obviously is a little bit more flexible on how you connect the wired and wireless client together. You know, we can keep our app TVs on the wired LAN part of the, you know, the main curriculum network, and then we can extend that connectivity to an SSID that's actually hosted inside of DMZ with Bonjour routing anyway we can.
And where is that Bonjour router?
Well, it's just a feature. It's just a packet forwarder, really. You think of it as a helper on the switch. You know, it's listening for certain types of traffic and it's forwarding them onto an address specified. I know there's a capability with other AP manufacturers and systems. Our current system doesn't do it, but you know, I think the newest version of it does. You know, it's out there.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just because this, as an AP, we don't have the AP in this sense. Is there's no control. The cloud is the controller.
Yeah.
So if I had my controller, for instance, if I had my standalone and my controller on site, then absolutely I'd be able to do that.
No problem.
Yeah, it's just because it's so you'd have your switches or whatever else that would be doing that helper functionality.
Well, yeah, maybe it's a feature of your switch in this instance.
No, it's not a feature in our switches at the moment, to be honest. So, yeah, I'll make a note of that one. Okay, so again, from here, we have all the configuration, but we also have the monitoring. So again, we can see the clients. So we can see all those, and we can drill down into those clients to see how much data they've been passing, how long they've been connected for, etc. We can't see what type of data they've been passing, so we don't do that, but we can see that they have been connected and etc. in there.
So there's no contextualization there. We don't know that it was, you know, web application traffic or you know, even TCP or UDP. It's just the amount of data consumed.
That's correct, yes. On the AP side. Okay. If you were using a gateway or anything else, for instance, then we can drill down into that client and into that data and see what applications they've been using. Okay, but from an AP side, we can't do that. Okay. Okay, and again we can see the event logs. We can see what's. Let's go and find some logs. Okay, you can see that I associated in here. Let's see if there's any order. Yeah, there we are. There's some other stuff that I associated and joined, 9:30, etc. and stuff. So you can go through and you can see all the logs. You can see, you know, all the data, and that's captured for in here for a year's worth of data in here. Okay. If we see a switch site, so let me go to a switch site. The Germans have a switch. Okay, we can go to the switch. Okay, again, we can go in here. We can drill through. And we can see the different ports that are up, etc. We can see the uplink ports. We can see what are powered. We can port power cycles, so I can power down a port, etc. Or reboot the ports. I can see how much power is being used. I can see data being used across the switch, etc. The uplink usage. Okay. Again, I can't drill into that data to be seen, you know, whether it's UDP or TCP, but I can actually see how much data is being pushed through here. Okay. And again, I can click into a port. Okay. And I can see again from this port itself the bandwidth usage and the power consumption that has been used from this port.
Is there any health metrics stored for, say, uplinks, you know, packet loss or anything like that?
Well, we can see it in here. So the packet counters, and then we can see error packets in here. Okay, so we can see what type of packets have gone through. Okay, but whether they are TCP, for instance, or UDP or whatever, we can't necessarily see that. Okay.
What about for the you know, uplink ports, top senders, top receivers, things like that?
Not again, not on this. Not on this one. No, we'd have to do that on our gateway, for instance. So if I went here, you know, I can see what MAC addresses have been learned. I can see what packets, etc. I can see some cable diagnostics, but I can't see the top senders or whatever else in here. Okay, let's have a quick look in here. No. Okay, from a gateway point of view, I can. Okay, so if I had a gateway live, so I'm going to take you to my home where I run it. Okay, from a gateway summary, okay, I can now see the top applications, okay, that have been used, and I can see the top clients that have used data. And I can drill into those clients.
So this is only for outbound traffic?
Yeah, this is only for outbound traffic, yes. Okay, that's only the last 2 hours, the last day. So last night, for instance, yeah, this would be my Amazon Fire. So I was watching some TV through the Amazon Fire device in here last night. So again, 2.4 gig came down, etc. On there. Okay, so again, we can see.
Also, does that help? You know, if you're interested in looking at who was hogging the AP, is that something we could quickly ascertain?
Sorry, who was? Can you say that again? Sorry.
Yeah, who was dominating the AP? If somebody was hogging the, you know, the available bandwidth or the, essentially top target from a wireless perspective.
So you can go in the client in here. Can you see how much data they've transmitted per client?
Can you order that grid?
Yeah, you can order it by any of these, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you can.
Transmits, receives in here. Let's do that. So there you are. You can see. Let me do that way there. Let me take you back to, sorry, let me take you back to someone that might's going to have a bit more data and a bit more clients on there. That looks pretty empty, to be honest. That's because no one's in my home at the moment. Let's go in here. Let's go clients. No, that's Germany. Germany's online. Okay, and you can see from in here that this user here, in the last 2 hours, has used this much data.
So the system doesn't have a view of that, of that type.
Let's go to clients on here. I don't think it does, no. Let's have a quick look in here. Sorry, just, yeah, I'm on the German one. No, it doesn't, for instance. No is the answer, unfortunately. Let's click into the client. No. It's done on the AP or on the gateway. Okay. And again, we can probably expand that to the last 7 days. Yeah, this is the... Ooh. This is the top transmission. Let's see, he's transmitted. This one's received, though. An awful lot of data, etc. So again, you can see who that is. Okay, IP phone. Morris has downloaded a lot of data. Okay, and that's over the last 7 days.
Yeah. Okay. So it remembers them by MAC address and does a DNS
description.
Yeah.
So if I go into the MAC address, so if I go in here, for instance, he says, clicking into this client. Okay, I can give it a. I can see where that client was there, etc. Etc. in here, so I can actually go in and look at that. That's the that's the AP. Sorry, let me go back. They haven't named their APs. If I go in here, let's say this Android device. What I can do in here, he says, I can put a note on there to say such and such a device, and that will be remembered all the way through the system. Okay.
Can you jump onto the switches and let's have another poke around them? So your port configuration, how you set VLAN.
Yep. So let's go into here. Let's go into the configuration side. Okay, so we can go in here. We can edit multiple ports all in one go. Okay, we can edit these. Okay, and we can go in here. We can obviously enable them or disable them. We turn on RSTP guards, etc. if need be, LLDP, PoE. So again, we can turn on and off PoE. If it's a PoE version, we can set the auto speeds, schedule it, set on loop guards, storm controls, and again in here, actually we're trunk all of our ports. Okay, all of out of the default trunk, and we have the pivot in there as well, and we allow all the VLANs.
Is there an audit or history of the changes, and can we roll them back, etc.?
There is a change log. He says in here, okay, and you can see exactly all of the changes when they were done, etc., all the way back through. Okay, can you roll them back? No, is the answer, but you have a full change log in there. Okay, of exactly what was changed and the settings.
So when you've got a working switch, can you clone it and pre-stage it ready for deployment on another site?
There is on all of the devices. Okay, there is a web GUI. Okay, where you can log in and you can do the basics. So on an AP, for instance, you can't set up the radio, but you can set up an IP address, for instance. In the switches, you can actually go in and you can set up the IPs and you can do the VLANs, for instance. That's about its limitation on its switch configuration. On the gateway, you set up its WAN and LAN addresses, and that's it. So again, there is certain amounts of pre-staging that you can do, but most of it would be done through this Nebula portal, etc. There's no harm in you even taking your site right now, for instance, one site, creating the new site, assigning the device to it, and then setting it up. And when it arrives, it's it's just in reality, it's external IP. It's just different. Yeah. There's no harm in pre-staging or anything else in there. Okay. Again, there are some overall options in here. We have IGMP snooping, quality of service, port mirroring, authentication servers, and some voice VLANs and DHCP servers and management, etc., that we can all set up and all change around the whole switch configuration, just not the port configuration.
So, do you do either a layer 3 switch or a routing switch, port class?
At this moment in time, no, we don't. That's the next switch that's coming, is the layer 3 switch. Okay, that's the next one that's coming in our portfolio. So that will come hopefully Q4, beginning of Q4 this year.
And yeah. Sorry, and that's your route.
That will be our routable switch, yes.
Is that something you actually need, Don?
Yeah, I mean, one of the
value.
We will need something to do the routing.
Right. So, but I mean, this is perfectly feasible to use this system with other people's with the existing switch network, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the minute though, our edge devices, our kind of access devices, they're a bit of a mix. I'd like to consolidate them into one type. I'd love it to be accessible via the web and managed on this whole single pane of glass concept. But actually, one of my biggest concerns for the site in question is its core switch. It's based on an old HP chassis, out of warranty, out of support, yada yada. So actually, at this point, one of my bigger priorities is the core class.
Right. So what are we? I mean, one of the words of an old the words of an old manager of mine ring in my ears at this point. He would tell us at times like this: sell what's in the warehouse. But the question is, of course, is when will that capacity? When will that be available from Zyxel?
Let me just 100% check. I believe it's kind of later this year, to be honest. But I haven't had an update recently, so I was hoping it's going to come in around September time. But I'm just funny enough, the product manager has just pinged me.
I mean, presumably you guys do core class switches, just not Nebula enabled.
That's correct. Yes, we do. We do a whole range, right from unmanaged right through to full layer 3 switches. Okay. No, unfortunately it's been delayed till next year. So the layer three switch that we would recommend, the core switch or whatever else is a next year product.
Is this going to be a firmware upgradable thing? Have you got software defined kind of switch hardware, or is this going to be a totally new device with a new new processor, etc.?
No, it's one of our existing switches. Yeah, hold on. It's just how that moves in. So at the moment, all of our devices in here, all of these form into these are all standard products as well as the Nebula products, so cloud-based. They then form, a Nebula version. So again, all of these APs and all of the switches and everything else form into our standard products. Okay,
so can these be managed using this web interface?
The question is, if you bought a standalone product today, or a standalone product today, will it be able to move into Nebula? The answer should be yes, but it may not be as simple as that, to be honest. So I don't want to make any firm commitment to that.
Well, what you're committing to there is not that the functionality won't exist. It's when that will become a reality. Right. Okay. So which could equally meet John's timescales anyway.
Yeah, because from our switches we would take our I think it's the 3700 is coming in switch. So these are our standalone switches, and we're going to take this switch here into Nebula, which is a 10 gig routed either copper or fiber switch into our Nebula portfolio.
And would that do the trick?
So L2 plus.
Layer 3 Lite, yeah, it does all routing.
Well, yeah, I mean the current device we've got is just a layer 3 device, but it is L3, proper layer 3, not L2 plus. Not that I, really get the distinction that what I'm trying to do anyway. So the obvious question is, are we buying, would we be buying something that would be orphaned off pretty quickly?
Quite the opposite.
My hope in this is if you bought this switch in this format today, that come next year at the time that this switch would migrate into being a Nebula switch with a license upgrade or a firmware upgrade, etc. Because we take our existing portfolio into Nebula.
It's the core switch really that gives you the wealth of information on network health, because it is routing all of the subnets. So it's a shame that it obviously wasn't perhaps the first one, but I get this product development, pathway and plan, etc.
Yeah.
And the sort of information that I can get from that switch once it becomes Nebula enabled is what I've seen today.
I can't tell you whether it be exactly what you see today on here, or whether it be more, etc. I would hope it be more. I'd hope it have the routing information, etc., and what traffic is being routed through the switch. But again, until I see it, I can't make any commitment to it.
Well, equally the functionality that we've seen today will develop and will be extended.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So
do you have a roadmap for the Nebula system? Sorry.
Pardon?
Do you have a roadmap for this Nebula?
Yeah, I can get hold of a roadmap for you.
Yeah.
It's still quite flexible at the moment. It's a moving target sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah, there is a roadmap for it.
Okay.
And equally, everything that you buy is going to be a compromise, and it's also going to be compromised by your budget, isn't it? You know, we would like kit that does everything we want, but there's a price tag attached to that, and at some point we are going to need to say, well, this is what, you know, what part of the budget are we going to is this going to be again?
No, that's fine. I mean, I've seen what I need to see anyway for this phase. I think the next step is you know, to maybe send you in a floor plan and then just put some you know, rough layout together and when to see what the Zyxel solution is going to cost as it stands now in terms of the product portfolio.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can do that. And that works very well for us. But have you seen enough for today?
Yeah, I believe so. There is one question actually. So early on you mentioned that you could split your sites down, and you know, people could be read only, etc. Is it possible to subdivide sites into almost like a role-based access, you know, system? So you know, we have regions. So we'll have regions of schools, and I might have a regional manager who just has visibility of those schools, and that'll be read or write, I would imagine. Individuals in those schools may just have access to their school, so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely you can. So in here, in the organisation, for instance, under administration, you can absolutely choose who has rights and everything else to individual sites, etc. So Kevin, for instance, in here, he only has read to the organisation as I do. So I can't change any so I can't delete people. I can't force them to log out or anything else. And you have different rights to different schools and different in here. So Michelle has full access to the Netherlands, but cannot see any other site within this organisation. Kevin he can only see the Germans. He can't change anything. I have access to everything. Sorry, as in read only, but I have full access to Zyxel UK in here. So again, absolutely you can pick and choose which schools, etc. people have access to.
So on the AFP, if we go back to there, the 802 1x radius.
Yep.
If you could just click into there so I could see the options.
Okay. Or we can go to my radius server.
Yeah.
In there. So you go to my radius server, which is then.
So to find somewhere with a key and an address.
Go in here, add a server in here, and a secret.
Yeah, secret. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and per SSID, I noticed the VLAN option, so you can set that for whatever you like, and the AFP will be kind of direct or bridge mode. But do you have any kind of, in terms of the guest, you know, like a NATed system, so they're not actually on the network, they're just kind of, you know, they go over by the internet and that's it?
Well, that is what the layer 2 isolation is, really. Okay. So you could, in reality, turn around and go, okay, your staff and your guests are absolutely on the same IP address and the same DHCP server and everything else, right? But actually, I'm going to say the layer 2 isolation says only the guests are only allowed to go out to the internet.
Yeah.
They can't see anything else.
No, it's fine. I'm just comparing. I'm trying to get a comparison apples to apples where I can. I'm just looking at that. It's obviously a feature that Meraki have, where they create their own 10 NAT range, and the traffic is delivered directly to the internet via this abstraction. So it doesn't touch your physical network at all. It's just one of the things it does. I'm not drawn to it currently. We drop all of our traffic straight on the packet, so the packet straight on the wire, and then that'll either be a VLAN managed by our UTM device, or it'll be a VLAN on the switch infrastructure.
Yeah, again, the flip side of that, we don't need to do that with layer 2 isolation.
Yeah.
It's literally, you could be on the same network as everybody else, but, as a staff or student, you can see everybody else, but as a guest, they can only see the internet.
Yeah.
And that's it. That there isn't any, you can scan it, you can break it or whatever else. No, you can only see that one device.
So even though it's a routed network, it'll let it talk to the gateway and ultimately get out over the network, but it wouldn't let you talk through the subnet.
If it's a routed network, then no, because it's layer 2 isolation, so it's based on MAC. So as soon as you hit a router, and you say, hey, I can layer 2 isolation to that router, then you'd be able to go elsewhere in that network.
I think I understand the limitations. I mean, really, it's an AP thing. It's the way of the clients that are associated. It can isolate them, but once the packet is delivered to a switch port, I guess it's unable to do anything about that.
It can go through in the layer 2 world. So in the MAC address, it's isolated. But if you hit a router that then says, hey, you could route anywhere else, then it's going to be routed.
Yeah, we have the same issue now. That's why we put our DMZ networks or untrusted networks behind our UTM. We have client isolation turned on, and with the UTM we control which networks they can access and what ports and which hosts, etc., etc.
Yeah,
it's fine.
So yeah, you'd be wanting to push this to that UTM device and then allow that UTM device to decide where and what it can.
Yeah, so we'll turn on client isolation, which keeps the software that's running on the device.
Yeah.
So they're unable to harvest the information on the general SSID. And then once the traffic hits the UTM, we then say, well, no, you can't come in on the internal network. However, you can access port 80 to this one device, which is a web server or a terms and conditions web portal or who knows, whatever. And then, of course, out of the internet, this many applications, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, well, gentlemen, I thank you for that. I am out of time.
Okay.
And I've got to go to another meeting now.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much.
Can I suggest we catch up at another point, and you and I, Don, and we'll have a discussion about maybe bringing some kit up to you and see where we go from there.
Yep, absolutely, Ian. No problem.
Okay.
Nice to speak to you. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.